I started playing field hockey in 9th grade, and we could do a whole speech about those early years, as Mom and Dad would probably say. And in the very beginning of my junior season, I committed to play at Georgetown University next year. So, thank you, yeah. But where the speech starts is 2 weeks later, when I tore my ACL. I had reached the pinnacle, the mountaintop of my career, and all of a sudden, I was at Hackley. Dreaded Hackley. This game would decide who would be the Ivy League champions. So, of course, I couldn't miss it for the world. And I remember how my legs felt at the beginning of that game. It's a little bit how my legs feel right now, like jelly. And 1 minute and 13 seconds into that game, my mom's nodding because she remembers it, I tore my ACL. I was on the mountaintop and I fell all the way to the bottom. It was then, standing on the sidelines, I knew and I swore that I would be back. I swore that this image would not be the one etched in history. And later, a week later, when I tore my ACL and they diagnosed it, I went to my room and I threw every article of clothing field hockey related on the floor. And I'm talking socks, shirts, USA field hockey gear, that sweatshirt my grandma gave me for Christmas. I was screaming, I was crying, I was uncontrollable. What is there to say to yourself when the worst happens, when your biggest fear comes true? I mean, for a month I was comatose. I felt like I was sleepwalking. And during that month, I had to work a lot on my strength and my flexibility. And a lot of that I did right here with our trainers at school, Jeff and Carolyn, if you guys know them. They helped me with my physical strength, getting my knee ready for surgery, but undoubtedly, they helped me much more by helping me understand that this wasn't the end of my life, just a shattered fragment of it. I had surgery on November 1st, 2024, very early in the morning. And I remember going to the bathroom, and I was in an IV and a gown, and I looked in the mirror. And I took a good look at the same face that is looking at you guys now. I looked a little tired. And the same face that wore my white headband, the same face that used to be flowing with joy on the field. And I looked myself in the eye and I made a promise. I'd get back, and when I stepped on the field, I wouldn't take any of it for granted. Here it is, I told myself, your new goal, your new mountain to climb. And that began with the introduction to my physical therapist, Jess, who would kill me if she saw that photo of her up right now. And I had to learn a new routine. I had to go to a new type of practice. I had to learn to take the small milestones, the small wins, getting full flexion, getting off crutches, walking normally, going up these stairs. But eventually, as you all may know, an ACL injury plateaus. The treacherous recovery starts to take its toll. Milestones fall further and further apart. And perhaps my lowest moment, hi Ms. Moreno, was my 6-month test where they told me I had a large deficit between my right and my left legs. I got in the car with my mom, and I listened to Waiting Room by Phoebe Bridgers 100 million times. And I went home and I cried, and I almost threw all the field hockey clothes on the floor again, but my mom had cleaned those up. We weren't doing that again. And I felt like I had nothing to show. 6 months of hard work, and I thought, here we are. What do I have to do? In those moments, in my lowest, I felt endlessly grateful to have a therapist, one as special as mine. And my favorite story from therapy, which I tell my STS kids every quarter, is my ocean story. Once I came to therapy, I was very upset. Life was too up and down. I had whiplash. And my therapist said, Lily, you need to be more like the ocean. And I said, look, I don't know what you mean by that. That sounds crazy. What is going on? And she said, look, sometimes it's super stormy. The waves are choppy, there's storms. But sometimes it's tranquil. It can change quickly, and that's okay. It's about riding the waves, taking them as they come. And I wouldn't be here without my therapist, or that mantra, be like the ocean. And so over the summer, I would go to the gym really early when I was at a program in Boston. I would take the T for people who know Boston in the morning. I'd tap my ID, I'd say hello to the regulars, and I'd get to work. And it's, who are you when you open your eyes in the morning? Who do you want to be? It starts from that moment when you have to drag yourself out of bed. And in that moment, I decided I wanted to not just play again, but I wanted to win again. And I set my sights on the Nice Ace Championship. Put it in my calendar, got all ready, got all excited. But initially, picking up the stick again was really difficult. It was a mental block. But as my therapist, my parents, my friends remind me, It's so much easier to do when you accept help. And so I worked with a coach in the city, I worked with my teammates, I went to the gym with my mom. And even though this was a solo journey, it really wasn't. And entering August and preseason, you can see an early morning preseason photo there, I felt very different from my one all those years ago in 9th grade. And yet, I felt very similar. I still had fears, I still had questions. Could I get back? Would I get back? Would I be the same player? Would I be good enough? And my teammates, some of them are here tonight, and my coach, Diane Toth, who's in that photo right there, a funny one of us, they really looked out for me. They held me to my stipulations. You can only play drills. Can't get fully back into games yet. And what I remember most is standing on the sideline, watching. Or the nights before bed, when I would close my eyes and imagine stepping onto the field. And I remember every minute I spent thinking about it, because I spent a lot of minutes. And when I believe that when you imagine something like that, when you dream it in your heart, when you feel it in your soul, it's going to happen. I fully believe that. And so my first game back, September 28th, homecoming, almost 11 months since my injury, was only allowed to play the last quarter. So I jogged onto the field, and the crowd roars. I feel it in my bones. I remember it now. I saw my friends. I saw my teachers. We invited everyone. And I ended up scoring a goal, and the bleachers exploded. Everyone went crazy. But then later, in Spanish class, Senor Spalding said it best. He said, you know when I knew you were back? Not when you scored, but when you tripped, you fell down, you were splayed out, and then you got back up. 3 days later, my second game back, I had to return to Hackley, the same field I tore my ACL 355 days earlier. There are a few moments in life when it's clear cut. You have an opportunity to complete a circle, break out of a cycle. For me, it was that Hackley game. We were down 1-0. I come in to the game at the beginning of the third quarter. 40 seconds in, pow, left sideboard. And I tear up now, even though I'm not tearing up. I just wrote that, whatever. But I think about that sound, my favorite in the whole world, which I had really missed. And eventually that game went into double overtime. And right before the second overtime, I looked at my mom and I looked at my dad, and then I looked up. And I can still remember the wind pattern. I can remember the sound. I think there were birds. And I remember thinking, how much fun is this? 30 seconds later, I scored the game winner. And we beat Hackley at Hackley for the first time in 11 years. After that, we went on quite the winning streak. One for the ages. Played Hackley a week later here at the Nest, crushed them. Played Riverdale Horace Mann, beat them both, and cemented ourselves as sole outright Ivy League champions. Please. Finally, we made it. The Nice Ace final. David versus Goliath. Fieldston versus Rye Country Day. They were 18-time, 6-time consecutive Nice Ace champions. And there are a few moments of my field hockey career as electric as that final. The game was gritty, it was back and forth, and I kept looking at my teammates expecting them to give up. I kept looking down at my knee, expecting it to just, crumble. And it never happened. We stayed deadlocked. So that game goes to double overtime, goes to shootouts, goes to the very last shootout. And then, on the very last shootout, we won it. First ever Nice Ace championship in Fieldston field hockey history. Shout out this table. But does the story end there? Absolutely not. Still go to PT once a week. I still have to massage my knee. And I've dealt with all sorts of health challenges following that. What I realize is no one sees the split squats or the stretching or the running or the plyometrics or the blood, sweat, and tears. What I realize is you can climb a mountaintop. You can commit to your dream school. And then you can realize there's only more mountains to climb. And you can never climb a mountain alone. It takes everyone, and it takes everything. I never would have had the strength to do it without any of the people you see. Thank you to my mom, my dad, who drove me everywhere, gave me hugs. I'm going to cry now. Thank you to my friends. Some of them are here. Too much, don't make me cry. Okay, I'm going to wrap wrap up because I'm fried out. Thank you to my teammates. Thank you all for riding the waves with me. Thank you.